so much, so much, so much I have to catch you up on. Okay, so I know it's been a long time, and actually I've been wanting to make like a YouTube comeback, but I've just been really busy. Let's see, where to start? What's new? Well, we painted the house white. I accidentally bought a Bronco Raptor. Still have the tractor. I bought a better mower. I've been working on the landscaping a little bit. Planted some sea grapes here. I moved all the chickens out of here, and I still got to clear all this out. And I built a big awesome chicken coop for the chickens. One of the next projects is to build a big fenced in yard for them out here. I still haven't finished the greenhouse. They really want to come out. But almost every time I let them out, somebody gets eaten. So they got to stay in there till I get the fence built. Also, we got a lot more chickens, and they're laying a lot of eggs. We got the eggs yesterday, and we have like another dozen in here right now. Come here, baby girl. We still have Razzie. She's still good and sweet as always. But we got Baron. Come here, buddy. We wanted somebody that could keep up with Razzie, and he can keep up with Razzie. I'm super behind on the mowing, but it's winter, so it's kind of part of the deal. I don't remember. I don't think you knew we got a pool, and I really need to do something about this yard. I have to admit, the pool's super nice in the summertime. I still have the big truck, but I got a four-wheel camper. Project M.
Hello.
Tell them how old you are now.
6. I used to be 5.
Okay, so I already know the very first question you're going to ask me. Why did I get a four-wheel camper Project M? And I'll answer that question for you. Before this, I had the AT Overland Habitat, which actually originally was like my dream setup. But there were a couple of things I really didn't like about it. One of them was the width of the bed. The length, or height, you know, was great. It was like, I don't know, like 8 feet or something. It was plenty. But the width was like, I think it was like 40 inches. It might have been 48. The point was is that when Ben and I, you remember Ben? Well, he's a giant now. I'll show you later. His shoulders are broader than mine. Him and I camped in that one night, and I was like, that's it. I got to find something bigger. And if I'm being honest, the dream setup is like a slide-in or flatbed truck camper, maybe from four-wheel camper on a flatbed, but that's like a $60,000 or $80,000. Just not going there. And my second kind of dream setup was like an actual slide-in, but the thing was is that those are pretty heavy. And I picked this over a slide-in camper for 2 reasons, one of which was weight, and the other was cost. These four-wheel camper Project M's are, I'd say, a little heavy on the topper side, but given what you are getting, it's about 400 pounds. I think 410 pounds is the rated weight. 410 pounds on the bed of this thing is really like a non-issue. The slide-in camper obviously would be much more. I like to do a little bit of technical wheeling, not that I've gone in a while. Weight was a consideration when I was putting this on. I wanted to have something that was lighter weight, but also offered all of like the camping comforts that I wanted. The other thing that's super awesome about these Project M's is that as far as the sleeping platform goes, it's pretty much the same size as all their other campers, and it's really, really wide. It's 6 feet wide, I think. Well, we can measure later if you want, but it's very, very wide. The actual sleeping platform itself, I think, is about the size of a king-size bed. I don't remember the exact measurements, but that was one of the driving factors, was that we had a nice, big, wide sleeping platform. And I've camped in this with myself, Evelyn, and Sam, which they're 2 smaller kids, and we had space for days. Myself and Ben camping in it could be in there with Sam and it'd be no problem. The other thing I really like is the fact that it's square and boxy. It really opens up the capability and ability. It really opens up the possibilities for what you can do inside, because it's like square and boxy and easy, and the space inside it's cavernous. Let's take a look inside. Oh, before we look inside, this is Ben. Do you guys remember him? How tall are you? Do we decide you're like 6'2", 6'1"? 3/4. And 3/4. And he weighs more than I do now. It's crazy. Let me show you how to set this thing up. Okay, it's simple. There's 6 of these all around. And you just hop up in here. You guys remember Sam, right?
Yep, you totally do.
Then I flip this little safety latch thing right here, and it loosens this up. And then I'm gonna push up on this right here and lock that in place. And there's this little strap right here, and you just flip it around like that and put it back on the snap. And that's kind of like a safety catch to keep this from flipping down. It probably won't, but anyway, it's there for safety. Then you come to this side, flip this down like that, and give it a good push. And this locks up into place right here as another safety catch. And we're pretty much set up at that point. There are these 2 elastic things that are super common in most tents, and I just loop them around here to kind of get them out of the way. It's kind of warm outside, so I'm gonna open these up for more light and ventilation. And I usually leave these hanging, but if you want it to be tidy, you can just whoop, kind of put these up here. That's what a lot of the other four-wheel camper people do. Nice and tidy. Oh man, the smell in here is just like, I need to go camping. Like, that's what I smell. The smell that I have is like, it's like the I need to go camping smell. Brings back fond memories of our first trip last summer. Okay, so the next thing there is to do, if you want to do something, is to pull the bed out. So this just slides out. You can see the track that it's sliding on, and it just slides all the way out to the end. You can see the little bumper guard thing right here, and you've got that on both sides that keeps the bed from sliding past it. Then all you have to do is simply just slide the mattress back, and then these cushion pieces fit in just like this. All right, so I'm kind of curious now, and I know we talked about this earlier in the video. How wide is this? I was right, 72 inches. Actually, if you want to split hair, 72 and a half, but 6 feet, right at 6 feet. And when you go into the length, we're 80 inches, 81 inches if you really want to split hair. So that's 4 inches shy of 7 feet. And since we're doing this, might as well see. Okay, so it's not quite a king size mattress size. King size mattress is 76 by 80. This is 72 by 80. So, hey, I guess 4 inches, but I'm happy with it. Okay, so I wanted to talk practicality for just a second. So in the AT Overland camper, one of the things that I really liked about it was the fact that the bed platform swung out over the back. So one of the things that I did is they gave me a built-in awning, which honestly, I missed the built-in awning. But one of the other things that I did that I thought I would like was that it leaves the entire bed of the truck open, kind of making your living space, if you will, where you can full stand height living space, really nice. The thing that I didn't consider, though, was the fact that the AT Overland, just the way they style theirs, and a lot of toppers are designed this way, and I don't fault them for this. This is, it's a more streamlined approach to styling, but it actually ends up hindering your interior space, and that is the sides taper. And so what that means is you have one width at the bed rails, at the base of the topper, you have another width at the top of the topper, and it was about 4 feet. And that was one of the things that made the sleeping platform so narrow, because obviously it was tapered with the top. But what happens is now you have this amount of space that's the length of the bed, and that's like all you had. So it's basically 6 feet, because the bed length is about 6 feet by about, let's say, 40 inches wide. And so I started taking measurements of my buddy's four-wheel camper Project M, and this is what I came up with. I came up with the fact that with the bed deployed, I had about the same amount of space here, open, see, stand-up space here, as I had in the AT Overland camper, except the bed width here was significantly bigger and I had a lot more storage space inside. So let's just measure this just for kicks and giggles. We already know that the width is 6 feet, 38 inches. So it's about the same size. And if I want more space in here, I can move this back out of the way and open this up completely. So that was really attractive to me. One of the other things that I really liked about this that I talked about earlier in the video was that the boxy nature of it makes it a lot easier to build out like an interior storage setup thing in here. So that was something else that was really attractive to me. Speaking of that, let me show you what I've built. So just like everything else, this is not done yet, but basically what I did is I built an extruded aluminum box. I will get into how I did that in another video, but I basically designed it in SketchUp and figured out the pieces and parts that I needed, made a bunch of mistakes, and came up with this. The end result turned out pretty good. I've got some modifications that I want to make to it, including, and I already have the parts and pieces for it, including a toilet enclosure box here. You can see my mounts that I have right here. This is where I had my wrap-on toilet. It was hard mounted there for a while, but I've got an actual enclosure, extruded aluminum box thingy that I'm going to build around it. That's actually also going to give me pantry space right here. So that's another video. But because it was boxy, all I had to do was build a box. And I basically, you know, was able to through bolt it on the shelf here, yeah. And so it's pretty simple storage. I did go on one trip with this already, and kind of like the idea behind this was to build something that I could just fit my front runner boxes in. I mean, I can change it into something else later on because I've already got basically the infrastructure built out of it. But in the meantime, I could just slide my front runner boxes in there and just slide them out and, you know, use that to, you can see I've just, you know, whoop. And I already did a trip, like I said, with this, and they stayed in there just fine. Maybe if I was in a really, really bumpy trail, maybe they would pop out, but I think they'd be pretty good. But kind of the long and short is, you know, I have the materials for it. I just have to figure out how to do it. But basically build doors, put doors on here that hinge down and then lock into place. That's kind of like the next iteration of this. Everything I kept in here pretty much came out. But the idea here was to have like a tuck space for bedding, pillows, blankets, stuff like that. I think that I might put a door on that as well. I haven't really fully decided. I see people doing slides and stuff like that too, so there's a lot of different options. I didn't really get any other add-ons like side doors and windows or any other stuff. I think I got all the standard stuff. I'd have to go back and look at my build sheet. But this side window right here comes standard. Got a screen, so you can open up the window, and you also have the screen right here. So that's super handy. I pretty much always keep this blind closed so nobody's looking in. You've got another window right here, obviously, so you can see through. And then you've got a window here on the back and a curtain, and I always leave that curtain open just because that way I can see through. And it's got Velcro, and then there's a nifty little handle here so you can use that to pull closed. So you see this shelf that goes down along the side? This was something that I wasn't sure if I was going to like or if I was going to hate it. To be honest, in the very beginning when I was actually considering doing something other than the AT Overland, that shelf was actually, to me, it was a detractor because I'm like, well, it's going to eat into my interior space. It's going to limit the things that I can do, et cetera, et cetera. Let me tell you about this shelf though. So this shelf, I can overlay some of the pictures that I took when I was at the 4-wheel camper manufacturing place and just outside of Sacramento. But the shelf is structural. So as you can see on the photos on the screen, the shelf is structural. It's got basically like aluminum framed support braces and all that other stuff. When I say it's structural, it's actually designed, engineered, intended to be used as structural support for the entire camper. It ties in the bottom and you can use it to like mount the camper to your bed rails. That's the purpose of it. The idea here is to give the user 12 inches of structural use. You can step on it, stand on it, mount off of it, sit on it. I mean, it's a usable platform. So actually, the more I thought about it, the more I actually decided that that was an added benefit that the competition didn't have. And so I really like that. So like I said, they use that, as you can see here, to mount through the bed rails. And because it's engineered to be structural, you can mount all kinds of stuff. In fact, their battery kit that they sell for these things, they actually through-bolt the mounts to the shelf and mount that heavy battery thing on the shelf. The point is that because you've got this shelf here, it gives you a lot of opportunity to be able to do things to expand your capability and build out within this shell camper. And you can see here, I actually, you saw in the pictures, this end part is aluminum tubing framing or whatever. It's like a stud. And I actually through bolted right here. I have a mount right here for the extruded aluminum box. And then I've got, you know, this L bracket thing. And then I've got the same thing down here on the bottom. And I have a through bolt. And that's how I have it bolted on both sides. So it's not going anywhere. Not that it's really load bearing, but it's not going anywhere. One of the things that I see, I think Veckel, or I can't remember, I'll have to post a link to it, but he's built a really cool looking storage system setup for the 4-wheel camper Project M. He just picked up a Project M. He's got a PXL like me and put a Project M on it, and some of the storage stuff he's building, it looks really awesome. And then you got sponsored by Wifey. He's doing some stuff out in California. I wish I lived out there because I'd have him just set me up. Hal's awesome, and he has done a lot of really cool stuff with the build out on his 4-wheel camper Project M, and for a lot of other people. If you're living in Southern California and you've got a Project M, I highly recommend pinging Hal, sponsored by Wifey, linked right here. Okay, so enough of the shenanigans. Let me kind of show you how I have mine laid out, all right? Before we do that, I gotta finish showing you a couple of things real quick. Okay, so they run the wiring here for your third light right here, and then the other wiring for the camper. This is pre-wire for solar and something else, I can't remember. And then the other wiring right here that goes up to the fan and the lights, this is how they did it for me. Just kind of, the reason why we did it like this is because my battery, the power source, is where I want it to be, and they ran the wiring all around for that, but they typically are running the wiring for the battery right here in the back corner. So that's why it looks a little bit weird, and I haven't fixed it yet because I'm lazy and busy, whatever you want to call it. But that's on the to-do list, is to clean that up, get that rounded under there. One of the projects I have is to build box storage over here, and I'll just hide the wire there. I can't remember if the fan comes with all of them or if I had to pay for that as an add-on. I can probably update you on the screen right here. The lights all come with it. I turned them on. And then there's 2 more here in the back. And then here, you can turn the fan on with the included remote. And it's pretty cool because I can tell you what, creates a nice breeze in here whenever you have the windows in the back open, right? It's a lot of good air. Creates movement is what it does. So if you're on like a 70-degree night somewhere and it's a little warm, you can click this fan on and it'll create a breeze in here. It's kind of nice. This is really exciting. I haven't like spoken to you guys in a long time. We haven't hung out in like a really long time. I'm having a great time. What about you? I got gear tracks here on both sides, probably unnecessary, but I wasn't really sure what I was going to be doing. And so I got the gear tracks there, and I got the gear tracks here. The gear track on the passenger side goes all the way back on the bottom. Of course, on the driver's side, it does not because of the window. In terms of how I have the interior kind of organized, so I have, you can see it maybe just a little bit right there. That's a big giant cable, and it's for my Goal Zero. It's called the Goal Zero RV Power Kit or something. Anyway, I have that ran back from my start battery, and I have that ran all the way back to the back here, and then it's got a big giant plug that goes into the back of the Goal Zero, and it can push up to 600 watts into the battery when running. It doesn't usually do that much, but I've got a 3000X, Goal Zero 3000X, I believe. Anyway, it can go from dead to 100% in about 6 to 8 hours of charge time. Okay, one of the things that I did that was actually super critical was I bolted I have a 3/4 inch Baltic birch deck floor. And I could clean it up and make it look super cool and fancy and put some vinyl LVP on it or something. And I might do that someday. But basically, I took 2 pieces of 4x8 and I trimmed it down to fit. And then I through bolted it. Well, I didn't quite through bolt it. I rib nutted it into the bed using giant bolts. I had several people tell me when I did that like, oh, you're just gonna bust the rib nuts loose, you know, on a rough trail. And I have 8, 4 on each board, bolts holding it to the truck bed with the rib nuts. And I figure if not all of them are going to bust loose, maybe one of them will bust loose, and it's still in here pretty good, but I figure if it busts loose, then I have a hole in the bed that I can just through bolt it that way. So I'm really not too concerned about that. Hasn't been a problem yet. And the cool thing about using Baltic birch is it's like super duper tough. So I literally have these L-track pieces just screwed in using like a 3/4 inch screw, probably not 3/4, probably a 1/2 inch screw. And these things probably aren't going anywhere. I wouldn't put like hundreds of pounds of testing at it, but you know, with these other L-tracks that I have here, I just have screws, you know, every 12 inches. Well, there's screws every screws every 6 inches. I don't know, I've got several screws in here holding it down, and it's been fine too. The wood deck, my version of it's kind of crude because I'm not a craftsman, but it's functional and it works, and it gives me a solid, stable mounting platform to use on the bed of the truck. So it's great, which I'm sure you can assume that I used it to mount my box as well. Gives it a nice, good, firm foundation. So I got a lot of really interesting, I've got a lot of ideas for what I can do on like a more complicated build out here, but kind of the spirit of what I'm doing here is to kind of keep it simple, right? It's to make it to where storage of things is neat and tidy and simple, easy to like pull storage of things out, still have a little bit of usable space in the bed of the truck, and make it to where when I'm going on a trip that I don't have a lot of setup or breakdown time as well. Those are like some of the main things that I like to think about. Last thing I want to do is get to camp and spend 2 hours setting up and then 2 hours breaking down like I did at my first trip years and years ago on those old Georgia Traverse videos. One last little section before I let you go. Wanted to show you the outside of the camper. One of the other things that I really liked about this camper was the ability to have these outside gear tracks. Okay, so this camper, it was an add-on. I do remember that for sure. But I've got a gear track up at the top and I've got a gear track here on the bottom. So I really liked that because you can mount, you know, basically get your size bolt that goes in here and pop this cap off. and slide your bolt in there. You can do it on the bottom right here, or you can do it up here on the top. And so you can see four-wheel camper, actually, they cut these pieces of aluminum for me here and here and drilled the holes at the right size, and then, you know, sold me these pins. So they made this MaxTrax mount, and I just bolted it up and have 4 MaxTrax on there. So it's pretty handy. It's a great, convenient, easy place to put them. They're out of the way and easy to get to if I need them. And then I have the same gear tracks on this side as well. This side I've got the, you know, shovel and axe mount over there. If you wanted to remove this thing, your jack stands would just bolt onto these 4 corner pieces right here. And then they had an extension jack stand thingamajigger when they put this on, so it brought it out to clear the fenders. And you could unbolt it from the inside and use those to jack it up off of the bed of the truck, and then you could just drive out from under it. If I had a garage or storage space, I might feel inclined to do that from time to time. The rub is that I don't. That's the rub. And I don't want to take this off and leave it outside to have squirrels crawl up in there and make homes up in the bed or something. And then breaking this thing down is pretty simple. You just take the cushions and slide them up here. You got to get back here a little bit because you have to lift this up. Lift it up a little bit like that and push it. But once you get it started, it just slides right back like that. I typically keep the cushions up here like this. Just as a side note though, let me back up a second. Let's say I'm going on a camping trip tomorrow. I'm going to slide the bed out. I'm going to make the bed. I'm going to get the bed ready. I'm going to have my pillows up there, my blankets and everything. And because this thing is slid out and I've only got 1 layer of cushions and I've got my bedding, I've got plenty of room to be able to close the top down on it. If I were to leave the bedding up there, and I've tried this, it didn't work. If I were to leave the bedding up there, double up the cushions, and then try to close it along with the pillows and all that stuff, it's too much, right? So if I'm going on a trip, I'm gonna leave the bed deployed and then I can just close it down. I don't have to mess with making beds or anything like that. Once I get home, I'm usually gonna take my bedding out of the truck and wash it because I'm not dirty, and then I'll collapse all this down and leave this collapse down like that. What this does is when you're when the bed's out and you have the whole thing collapsed down, you can see how much space you have, right? It basically stops right here. So you've got, you know, this back portion's a little more open all the way up to the top here, but right here it's not, right? It's down to like right here. And so it just gives you about, I don't know, 8 or 10 inches more space inside here whenever the bed's collapsed. So like I said, if I'm not using it, bed is collapsed. Okay, so from here I'm gonna leave these out like this. Obviously gonna close these up. Put my bungee back up so it pulls the fabric in. Gonna release the safety strap and just give it a gentle tug and guide it down. Put this guy back up here and get him out of the way. And then we'll basically do the same thing over here. Gonna release the safety strap over here. I always snap it back and tuck it back. Grab this guy right here and guide him down nice and slowly. Put this thing in place. And now the inside's done, but you can't forget about the outside because that'll be a problem. Sometimes you gotta give it a little bit of pull down pressure. And then you just clip the latches. Little trick is just, they said to make sure there's some spring in it. So that looks good. And once you get all those latches, all 6 of them, locked into place, you're good to go. So I guess only time will tell if this is my triumphant return to YouTube. If you have any questions about this or my setup or how any of this stuff works, let me know in the comments below. And if there's enough questions, maybe I'll make another follow-up video or something like that, or I can just answer your questions in the comments. With that said, it was really great hanging out with you guys today, and we'll see you guys in the next video.